Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. We are very glad and obviously very honored that Imran is here with us today. You may be aware that, I'm sure that you are aware that Imran is being appointed the Chancellor of Bradford University, and the inauguration ceremony for that is taking place tomorrow. The purpose of tonight's event is obviously for Imran to give you an update on the proceedings or goings on with the Showkت Memorial Hospital, which is the cancer hospital which treats 70% of its patients absolutely free of charge. And I'm not ashamed about it, that tonight's event is about fundraising. We will be asking the people in the audience, and we've told them before we invited them here, that we will be collecting money on behalf of the hospital. There's been a lot of fundraising over the last couple of months due to the disastrous events that have taken place in Southeast Asia, but we cannot at the same time ignore the charities that are doing tremendous amount of work and that need still our support. So if I can ask Rashpal to play the first bit of the DVD, which will give you some idea of the hospital if you don't already know, and then we will ask Imran to speak and question and answers, and then we'll go on to fundraising. Imran Khan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The moment Arshad mentioned fundraising, I noticed a gloom went across the room. And I don't blame you, because, I thought during the month of Ramzan I will be fundraising, which is what I normally do for the cancer hospital. And after that I relax for the rest of the year. But after the first week, as we all know what happened, and since then the fundraising has gone on and on and on. It's been basically raising money for something which, unless you've been there, you cannot imagine the magnitude of the disaster. I basically went there on the third day for a fact-finding tour, because at that time, our Prime Minister, Shortcut disease, Showkت disease, he was saying that there were only about 2,000–3,000 people affected. Although immediately the begging bowl was out and he was asking for $200 million. He said, just give us $200 million and we'll be okay. So shameless that any opportunity they can get, they want to make money even out of this big tragedy. When they didn't even know what the scale of the disaster was, but still the begging bowl was out. And I actually just went there for a fact-finding tour as a member of parliament, and also wanted to show solidarity. So while they were saying on the second day there were a few thousand people, I was getting calls from all over, people telling me that there are thousands and thousands of people buried under the rubble. So when I got there, I then decided that all of us have to concentrate on one thing alone, and that's raise money for the earthquake and do whatever we can, because it's you cannot imagine the devastation. No one still fully knows the number of people killed. The assumption it's 100,000, it could be more, because there are people who just vanished under landslides, which no one even knows about. Still people, in Muzaffarabad and Balakot, no one knows the number of people who died, because Balakot, the whole city came down. And Muzaffarabad, half the city came down. So, when I saw what was happening, and I discovered, I had announced that I would go and help the government, although I'm firmly in the opposition against you all know my views, what I think of Musharraf's government. But the moment this thing happened, we decided that there can be no opposition. Everyone must unite. I offered my services, whatever I could do for the government, anything, however they wanted to use us. But unfortunately, when I got there, I found there was no government. who were we going to help? There was no government. There was no civil administration, no local government, no army. On the fourth day, the army started coming, and actually the rescue work did not even start till about a week, 10 days later. Meanwhile, for 3 days, people were buried under the rubble, and ordinary citizens went to help them. You will be inspired to know that never have I could imagine that there could be a relief effort by the citizens as what I witnessed there. It was the most incredible ever. I don't think it can happen anywhere else in the world. I can't imagine it happening. When I went on the third day, there were queues of 2-3 miles long of cars heading in that direction. There were traffic jams. There were actual traffic jams. There were so many people heading in that direction that there were traffic jams. And it wasn't as if there were some NGOs going there. When I went to Balakot, I had people coming, who had just parked their little Suzuki on the side of the road and would say, Imran Sahab, bataye, hum ye saman to le aaye, abhi dein kisko? And this is exactly what was the spirit in the country. People did not care. They just loaded their cars and headed in that direction. But of course, there was complete chaos. There was no direction. Everyone landed up in one place. They would hear, there's a problem in Balakot. Everyone headed towards Balakot. Muzaffarabad, there were traffic jams in Muzaffarabad. But 2-3 kilometers away from these centers, there were people being devastated. No one got to them. In the end, these people started looting the trucks because everyone was heading to the main centers. There was no one, to care for these little villages. So complete chaos. And so therefore, that's when I decided that I would try and forget everything and raise money for this, for the earthquake. I launched my charity, set up a bank account, organized all friends, Tehreek-e-Insaf, volunteers, donors of Showkat Khanum, everyone we mobilized. We set up camps, collected goods, set up a network, one forward camp in Muzaffarabad, one in Mansehra, Abbottabad, and from there we started distributing goods. We would first investigate where it was needed, and then we would send people, our own trucks to these places. But what I want to say is that on this earthquake, that unfortunately when I came, again I appealed that the government should gather everyone together, whoever, citizens, NGOs, foreign, local, everyone should be got together. The government should say what the government is doing, how many villages it's got to, what its plans are, and then it should tell all of us what to do. Where should we go, what the government expects from us. Because still there's a lot of duplication going on. No one knows what the government is doing, because wherever I went, I was there last Sunday, there are people saying, no one has come to us. We haven't had any relief. Government is saying it's distributed 20 billion rupees. Wherever I went, they said we haven't received anything. So what really right now what needs to be done is to organize this relief effort. What I'm hoping when I go back, I'm going to call a conference of all the top NGOs. We're going to have a conference. We will ask the government representative to come to this conference and explain to us what the government is doing. And then amongst us, we will then start distributing areas and responsibilities. Otherwise, I'm afraid the way it's going, I hate to say this, but in the next 2-3 months could be even a bigger catastrophe than has already occurred. Now, to this evening. The reason why Arshad and Tahir Nawaz, we all got together to have this function, because there is a problem. The problem is that all the money, and quite rightly, has all been diverted towards the earthquake relief. And unfortunately, quite a lot of this money, as I was telling a couple of guests here this evening, that not all of the money is going in the right direction. Because people, because they do not trust the government, they've decided on themselves to go and distribute the money. Now, of course, this is a very difficult thing. Relief distribution is a very, very difficult thing. Why is it difficult? Because unless you know the local conditions, you do not know who's the needy person and who is not. So what's happening is that if you go to these places and you actually go to the various villages, you will find that the needy people are sitting in their houses, and the ones who are professional beggars are actually at every camp. And so the distribution has quite distorted. That's why the distribution has to be done through local people. And I'm afraid, this is right now the issues of organization, not so much of funds there right now. Of course, we'll need funds, but at the moment, unless you know where the funds should go, there is going to be a lot of pilferage, misallocation. Shaukat Khanum Cancer Hospital, you just saw the brief documentary. We have a deficit every year because it is a private cancer hospital, has 70% free treatment. 70% free treatment in a private cancer hospital means that there is a deficit of 55 crore rupees. 550 million rupees is a deficit every year. The deficit we make up through zakat. The zakat we collect all goes to the treatment of poor patients. And as I said, the zakat has basically been diverted towards, quite rightly, towards the earthquake victims. Now, what we hope is that we will gradually now have to have events spread over the next 5 months, not so much in the next 2 months, but after March we hope to have events when we will try and make up this big deficit. What we in the meanwhile have done is we've frozen the expansion of the hospital. The reason why we've frozen the expansion is because obviously there's a shortfall of funds. And so there's been a belt tightening. What I was hoping was that there would be a belt tightening by the government of Pakistan too, because here they are begging for money, donors conference, and they have not done any belt tightening themselves. BMWs worth 3 billion are being imported. Prime Minister and President have both got these Gulfstream jets worth $25 million each. There's an army of ministers who consume lakhs of rupees a day. What they do, we still don't know. Then, of course, there's a GHQ being built in Islamabad, only 15 miles away from the other GHQ. And you would not believe it, the value is almost 200 billion rupees. 200 billion rupees, and they have not decided not to shelf it. I mean, you would have thought that GHQ could wait maybe another 10 years. But no, the GHQ is not waiting for another 10 years. We have a situation where there's going to be a housing scheme in the GHQ, golf courses and lakes, and here they are people shelterless. And here is the government asking money from the international community, and they have decided to take $4 billion, which are loans. Imagine, $4 billion loan they are putting on this poor generations of Pakistanis. Already one of the most, Pakistan's debt to GDP ratio is the highest in South Asia, South and Southeast Asia. And yet they're going to take these $4 billion loans and not going to cut their own expenditure. Shaukat Khanum, we've cut our expenditure. We've immediately done belt tightening. The hospital has a problem because there are too many patients that come every day. We don't have space to take all the patients, so we have to send a lot of patients away. And as a result, the hospital gets bad publicity because people who are turned away say, there's no free treatment. We couldn't get in because we couldn't pay. And the hospital has to suffer this adverse publicity. That's why we are building a second cancer hospital in Karachi, where we were hoping to start construction we are already starting construction of a big diagnostic center within Karachi, but the main hospital we were supposed to start next year, but obviously we will see what the finances are. But as far as Lahore goes, we were expanding the hospital and we've had to stop because of this shortfall. But still, we will need money to fund the poor patients. And that's really why we've got this evening. And we have again invited you to yet another fundraiser of God knows how many you've attended. From your faces, I can say you've all attended quite a lot of fundraisers. And so the reason is very simple. There is an institution which relies on the support of Pakistanis, and it has been supported. It does not have any foreign funding. It does not have any government funding. It relies on people like you. 70% of the funds come from within Pakistan. 30% of funds come from overseas Pakistanis.